Hello, everyone. Welcome. We'll take another couple of seconds as people are coming in, but welcome back to Spring into Discovery Space. This is our next webinar in the series, featuring Maria Luisa from Nucleo, who will go over the scenario on embarking on the Earth's annual journeys, talking about the cause of the seasons. But she'll go into that in more detail. Luisa, do you want to say hi before I finish the introduction?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here to present another scenario. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope we have lots of questions.
Yeah, that'd be great if you guys can be interactive today. Anytime you have something to ask, please don't be shy. Either write it in the chat and I'll decide when I think it's a good time to interrupt Luisa, or don't be shy. Feel free to turn on your microphones. There's not too many of us, so it should be possible to take questions that way as long as it doesn't disrupt the flow too much. I see some of you are saying hi in the chat. If you haven't yet said hi, please feel encouraged to do so. It's always good to know you're there, you're writing with us, have some level of interaction. And if you feel like sharing with where you're from, where you're joining from, it's always exciting to see people joining from different parts of Europe and different parts of the world. So a couple of quick reminders before I turn things over to Luisa. Spring into Discovery Space is a campaign run by the Discovery Space Erasmus Plus funded project, where it includes this webinar series that you're here, so you know about. It's good to see you back again, as well as an implementation challenge, where we're encouraging you to actually use the scenarios that we're going through in the webinars with students and try them out, get back to us with any feedback you have. And as an incentive, and any questions, if we can help support you using it as well, that we're here for that. And as an extra incentive, as if it weren't good enough on its own, then some of the teachers who are the most active, attending the most webinars and implementing with the most students, can win a funded trip to the Discovery Space Summer School in Marathon, Greece, or Discovery Space training with myself at the European Physical Society's headquarters in Mulhouse, France, as well as individualized workshops at your school or in your area. So if you haven't yet heard about those aspects of Spring into Discovery Space, I'll add a link into the chat as I turn things over to Luisa. So hopefully we'll see more of you and hear more of you as the campaign draws to an end. So thanks again for being with us. And Luisa, thanks for leading this webinar. And now turning over to you.
Thank you. I've just put the link to the EPS
Perfect. Thank
site
you.
so that everyone can have access to the whole thing about the webinars and how to win a trip to Greece to Marathon and have a wonderful week with lots of other interesting and interested teachers. I hope you really have a chance to go, because it's a very exciting experience, the summer schools. So am I able to share? I think so.
Yeah.
Yes. So okay, so this is the site that I put the link and that Michael was explaining, so you can see the rules and how to participate in the contest to go to the summer school. So we are going to talk about one of the scenarios of the Discovery Space. I think that everyone knows the oops, I don't have it. Yes, I have it. The Discovery Space link. And yes.
Oh, we put different links in there. I put straight to the platform. Sorry, I didn't realize you were putting
no,
one
that's okay.
website.
Just if there's, I don't know if there's someone new to the project, but if there is someone new to the project, they can read a little bit more. And when you don't know how to get to the platform, you can always come here to the resources. Oops. And here it is. And I like to show it because besides the the link to the platform, it also has the link to the tutorial. So the platform is quite easy to use. I don't think anyone has really big troubles. And if anyone has a problem, we are here to help. You can always email Mike or me, and we will help with whatever you need. But over here, you do have the tutorial in English, and you have a button to go to the Trust AI Lab platform, which is the platform where we created the scenarios, and then we give a link to the students so that they can experience the scenario. So when you do that, you should get here. I'm not going to click on it because otherwise it will open already in my account because I'm already logged in. So if you go to the link that Mike put in the chat, you should arrive over here. And does everyone have an account already? Is there anyone new? Can you just, if you're new, can you say that in the chat so that we see if you can log in or not? There's no one new, I guess. So everyone already has an account. So what I'm going to show, you really don't need an account, but still it's always nicer to log in and see things in your own computers. I'm showing what I mean for the scenario. So I'm already logged in. I'm going, okay. Usually you go to the dashboard and you can look for the scenarios that exist in the authoring tool. Not over here, sorry, authoring tool. The scenario I'm going to talk about is this one, which is public, okay? So this is a scenario. It doesn't have the name seasons in the title so that students don't immediately think about the seasons, because initially this was a bigger scenario and we wanted them to first start looking at some pictures and then start thinking about the seasons and not go directly from the title. That's why it didn't have the seasons there. But we had to cut it so that this is a quite straightforward scenario, because teachers don't have that much time. So one advantage of this scenario, it does say here 90 minutes, but to tell you the truth, you can do it in 60 minutes. So this is a little bit conservative. I'll probably change here so that it says from 60 to 90 minutes. Of course, you always have to take into account that the students have to log in, have to go to the link and log in. And sometimes that can take a little bit of time, but this is quite a straightforward scenario. And the idea is to have the students think a little bit about what causes the seasons. And we tried to incorporate all the misconceptions that usually arise with the idea of the seasons. So what we tried to do was go step by step and think about what usually students get mixed up or have the wrong idea. So that's basically our main concern, was to really dive into that and have them deconstruct whatever previous ideas they had. So I'm going to also show you the student view. I think I have it. No, this one is the same as that one. This is the dashboard. No, I thought I already had here I'm just duplicating so that I can put in the student view. at the same time. I thought I already had this over here. Here it is. So when we start this scenario, we address immediately the answers that usually come. Usually the students think that it has to do with the distance between the Earth and the Sun, that it changes throughout the year, and that causes the season. Sometimes they have weird ideas about the Earth's rotation that has to do with the seasons, and some already know that it has to do with the tilt of the Earth's axis. So we try to address these three ideas in the first question. And now I can show you over here the scheme of the scenario. And if they think that it is because of the rotation of the day and night, it's really something that doesn't make much sense. So what we try to do is asking them other questions that will lead them to understand that it couldn't be that. In this case, since the rotation is responsible for day and night on Earth, and usually that's something that the students know, we can just ask, between day and night, are there different seasons? No, so the Earth's rotation doesn't cause the seasons. And we ask again, then what causes? And we put in the same questions that were there, except the one that they have already answered. So they have the hypothesis of the tilt of the Earth's axis or the distance between the Earth and the Sun. So if they go for the rotation, they immediately are told that no, it doesn't have anything to do, and they have to think about the tilt of the Earth's axis and the distance between the Earth and the Sun. So the other hypothesis was distance between Earth and the Sun. How do we deal with that? We try to have them think a little bit about the different hemispheres. We have two pictures. It's Christmas time, and in Sydney, you have, this isn't appearing very nicely. Yeah, now it's it's nicer. In Sydney, we have Christmas and it's summer. In Lithuania, we have Christmas and it's winter. So at the same time of the year, we have different seasons. If the fact that the Earth is at a different distance from the Sun causes the seasons, then how would we have the same season at the same time? So that's where we try to have them think about it. So either they understand that Christmas can be during the summer or during the winter, so it doesn't have to do with the distance. If they don't understand that, then we tell them to think a little bit more, and they have to understand that what causes seasons has to explain why the two hemispheres have opposite seasons. So the idea is that with a practical example, they understand that we cannot think about the distance being responsible for the seasons. So I'm going back to the face, and basically this is our introduction to the topic of seasons. So what they already think about that causes the seasons. This is what we usually say, that they have to activate their prior knowledge about the theme before going forward to the next step. So then we come to the hypothesis. So there are some that already say that the tilt of the Earth's axis, but how does that really affect the seasons? So from the three initial ideas, they are focused now on the tilt of the Earth's axis. But the thing is that they have to understand why it causes the seasons. So we have different answers. Maybe I'll come here, I'll come here. So this is the student view. I'm going from the student view to the back office view, because in the student view, well, I can always restart, but that will take too much time. But I'll try to follow a certain path. So, you know, the student knows that the tilt of the Earth's axis has something to do with seasons, but exactly what? Our first hypothesis is that the tilt of the Earth's axis causes different parts of the Earth to receive sunlight at different angles throughout the year, leading to the changing seasons. Or the tilt of the Earth's axis makes one hemisphere closer to the sun than the other at different times of the year, causing the seasons to change. Or seasons change because Earth's tilt itself changes. So these are, one is the correct one. The other two are misconceptions that students sometimes have. What happens is that seasons change because Earth's tilt itself changes, is something that is not completely wrong, in the sense that the tilt of the Earth does change throughout time. What we try to do is explain them, that its effect is so small that it couldn't throughout the year be responsible for the change of the seasons. So over here we give them an explanation on how the inclination of the axis changes, because some have heard that it does change, but they don't have any idea of how much it changes. So that's where we give them some information, and they should realize that it's not enough to cause the seasons changing. Then the other hypothesis was that the tilt of the Earth's axis makes one hemisphere closer to the sun than the other. So they figure out that if it's inclined, then one is closer, and being closer, then it will get more heat than the hemisphere that is a little bit less close to the sun. So they think that the tilt makes a big difference in the quantity of energy that strikes the upper hemisphere, the northern hemisphere, comparing to the southern hemisphere. And here they're just thinking about the distance. So how much more sunlight being closer to the sun does a hemisphere have when compared to the other hemisphere, just because of the distance. And in fact, there is a difference in the distance, because if it's inclined towards the sun, we do have like the radius of the Earth, or the diameter of the Earth could be a measurable distance difference between the two hemispheres, but that, compared to the distance of the sun to the Earth, is so small that it doesn't really make a difference. Theoretically, you can come up with calculations, and you'll see that it's a percentage that is very, very small. It doesn't really cause much difference between the energy that comes, that strikes one hemisphere and the other. But still, it was a valid idea that because of the inclination, you have different distance between the hemisphere, the one hemisphere and the other hemisphere. So comparing the Earth's average radius with the Sun-Earth average distance, we see that it's very small and it cannot be responsible for the seasons. So we're left with the tilt of, sorry, this was the first. We're left that the tilt of the Earth's axis causes different parts of the Earth to receive sunlight at different angles throughout the year, leading to the changing seasons. So it is the inclination of the sunbeam that makes the difference throughout the seasons. And this is basically our hypothesis. So for the engagement, we saw the common ideas they have about the seasons. For the hypothesis, we focused on how the tilt can affect the seasons with some knowledge that sometimes the students have, but they cannot evaluate how efficient would be the change in distance between the hemispheres or the change in the axis inclination. So at this point, they know their hypothesis. Their hypothesis is to see how the sunbeam angle changes throughout the year and how can that contribute to the seasons. So we go to the experiment. And over here in the experiment, so I'm going directly to this one. And we will continue. So this was the what we wanted them to arrive at so that we can investigate afterwards. So for them to understand how the movement of the Earth around the sun and the tilt of the axis affects the sunbeam, sorry, we have this simulator. I'm going to put it here. I don't know if anyone knows it. Unfortunately, this one opens a new page. It doesn't stay in the same as the, oh no, it is, sorry, it goes directly to the simulator. And what we would like them to do over here is to understand from the different points of view what happens during the motion of the Earth around the sun during a year. I'm just going to start the animation so that you can see what they will see. So we have different views. Over here, we can see from like outside, and we see how the Earth moves around the sun. Over here, we have a closer look, and we can see the sun rays changing the angle throughout the year. We can play with the observer and put them over here, Northern Hemisphere, right up to the pole. And we see the difference, how it affects the rays. And we can go wherever we want. So this can be very interesting for students to understand how the latitude makes a big difference on how the sun rays strike the place where they are. And over here, we can really see at a certain place how the sun rays vary throughout the year. So we have gone more than 1 year, and we have seen how things change from different perspectives. Over here, we can also see the sunbeam spread. So now that it's quite vertical, well, yes, yeah, I'll leave it over here. And if we let it go around a little bit more, you can see how the sunbeam spread is getting bigger, how it is changing throughout the year. I'm going to put it a little bit more like this so that it is more obvious. And you can switch between the sunlight angle. So it's quite it was more horizontal, now it's getting more vertical, and we see how the sunbeam spread is changing. So this is a very useful simulator because I think it does help the students to see what is happening in the 3 different views. So I'm going to stop the animation. And what we want from them is, first of all, that they play a little bit with the simulator, try to understand how it works and what information they can get from each one of these views, what they can change, what they cannot change. So they should play a little bit at the beginning so that they understand more or less how this works. Now I have to come back, and this is something that I've been asked to see if this simulator opens in a different tab so that we don't have to go back and forth. But it's still at this point we have to go back and forth. So the idea is that the students start playing with it. So we will continue. So playing with it, and that's why we should have the lab still open over here. We try to have them think about what are the dependent and the independent variables. So we give them a few choices. That independent variables would be the date, the observer's latitude, and the dependent variables, the sunlight angle and the sunbeam spread. The other one we change, which are independent, which are dependent. And finally, over here, we have an extreme that says that all of them are independent. So these are what the hypothesis they have to think about. Why do we want this? Because we want them to plan their investigation. And if they don't understand the variables that they can play with, then there's no point in letting them do their own investigation. They will get mixed up. So if I go now over here, we have asked them what they thought, and we had the independent and the dependent variables, and we explained them. So if they didn't get the correct answer, we try to explain to them that the independent variable is a factor that you control, and it's the cause of the phenomenon, and the dependent variable is the observed outcome. So with that in mind, we ask them again, which variables can you control and which ones are affected by those changes? So we play a little bit about the definition of independent and dependent variables so that they get to the point to know what they can really play around. And that should be you have your variables. Sorry, no, I wanted the variables. Where do we go? Oh, I'm sorry. Just 1 second, because Okay. No, it doesn't. So at this point, they should have their dependent and independent variables, which was the this one would be the correct one. And we ask them to continue to play now with the simulator. So this is the point where they have to plan their experiment. So they know the variables and they should do a design that allows them to understand how throughout the year the variables will change and how the dependent variables will change. So we try to guide them that they have to create a data sheet and they should have a column for the independent variables and specify what will be changed during each trial, and the controlled variables, the factors that you will keep constant to ensure reliable results, and the dependent variables that describe what you will measure and how you will record it. So we're hoping that they choose the place and then try to see, for instance, throughout the year different dates, and they will measure the inclination of the rays or the sunbeam spread. But we still are leaving them to create their own the data sheet to record their results. So these are suggestions for them that they should try to follow, and then they should get their own data to afterwards be able to analyze it. So if we continue, here is the simulator. I'm going to open in a new tab. Yes. Okay. So what we really want is for them to create a data sheet where they can start with an observer in a certain latitude, go and change the dates, and they can see the sun's altitude that has to do with the sunlight angle, and they can also see how the sunbeam spread changes. So this would be what we would expect them to do. One latitude, another latitude, another, maybe 4 latitudes or at least 3 latitudes, we would expect them. And they continue, and they have to analyze their data. So over here, we aren't able to see the data they collected. This should be probably helped by the teacher. For instance, the teacher can see what the students are doing and see if they are doing the right thing, if they are thinking in the right way. You can always let them do it their own way and then have them repeat so that they understand what was wrong. Many times it's good to let them do some mistakes so that they understand how to get to the right track. But it all depends on how much time you have and how confused the students can be. So if they are too confused, you should always guide them a little bit. If they are almost there but not quite, you can let them see by themselves that it doesn't work. Anyway, I would say that from the data collection to the analysis, the teachers should be more or less looking at what the students are doing so that they can help here and there and have them sufficiently satisfied with the work, because if they get too confused, they can just lose their interest in the activity. So it's good to have them interested, and we don't want them to feel completely lost. But they have to analyze their data. So we ask them that based on their data analysis, which of the following statements are true. So the first one says that at a fixed location in the northern hemisphere, the sunlight falls more horizontally in December and gradually becoming more vertical by June, and then gradually falling more horizontally again until the following December. So we're going looking at the fixed location in the northern hemisphere, and we're seeing how the sunbeam angle changes in 1 year. So it's more horizontal in December, it's more vertical in June, and then it's horizontal again in December, which is actually the right question. The other one, at the fixed location in the northern hemisphere, the sunlight falls more horizontally in June and more vertically in December. It's exactly the other way around. So it's not the correct one. And finally, at the fixed location in the northern hemisphere, the sunlight falls more horizontally in December and more vertically in June. This is correct, but it's not as detailed as the first one. So over here, we are distinguishing between those that understood the whole, what's happening throughout the whole year, while over here, they just went like to 2 dates and only did half the work. It's not wrong, but it's not as complete as the first one. So let's see what we do with these different answers. So we are already over here, data analysis. So this was the question. And if they didn't, well, whichever answer they give, they will always go to the same next question, which I will come here. So that was the first question. The second question is that based on the data analysis, if the angle of incidence of sunlight at a location on Earth does not influence the spread of the sunbeam at that location. So now we are trying to make a relation between the direction, the angle of the sunlight with the sunbeam spread. And that's what they have to analyze. So the first one says that it can be more vertical, it can be more horizontal, that the spread is always the same, which is obviously wrong, and they can see that in the simulator. The second hypothesis is that if the sunlight is more horizontal, the sunbeam spreads out more, which is true. So you have a larger area, but it says that hits the area more compared to when the sunlight reaches more vertically. This is wrong. So the first part is correct, that it does spread more, but it's the same quantity of energy that is spreading in a larger area. So it will heat less than if it's all concentrated in a smaller area. But since they see a bigger area, they can think that, okay, if it spreads more, it will, reach out to more places, it will heat more. But that is wrong. And finally, the correct one will be when sunlight reaches a location on Earth more vertically, the sunbeam spreads out less, so it's more concentrating, and it hits the area more compared to when the sunlight reaches more horizontally. So we have two wrong ones. This one is semi-wrong, half wrong, half right, and this one is completely right. So they have over here an image that can help a little bit understand what is happening. So we ask them to look at the picture that illustrates the light rays hitting the ground at different angles. And over here, they should understand that how the area changes, how the spread changes with the inclination of the sunlight. So if I go over here, this should appear. Okay, and now they have to think again what makes more sense. Over here, there is a more detailed explanation so that they can really understand how it makes a difference, the different angle at which the sunlight strikes the Earth. So if they are still completely off, they will choose regardless of the angle of incidence of the light, the ground will heat up in the same way because the energy of the light is the same. So this is like the extreme answer that they are not really understanding that the area that the beam spreads throughout will have an effect on the heating because the energy is going to be spread. So if they are completely off, we will have, so yes, they will have, they should have a direct explanation. I'm sorry. Relation between the explained. Yes, so I think it's not coming here, but the idea is to give them a direct explanation so that they understand the relationship between the sunlight angle and the sunbeam spread explained. So I'll check why it went there. But when they leave the data analysis, they should have understood the relationship between the sunlight angle and the sunbeam spread. And they should have understood how the sunlight angle changes throughout the year, at least at a place in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's time for them to go to the reflection. And over here in the reflection, we tried to have them think how the Earth goes around the sun and how the axis is always pointing to the same place. That can be seen in the simulator, but probably they didn't really take much notice that the axis is always pointing in the same direction. And what we try to do over here when they have to reflect a little bit about the Earth's movement around the sun is showing them a model, a physical model that sometimes we do with students. And we have several Earths and all of them have the axis. And we ask them to place the Earth around the sun will be the light. And what many times happens is the students just put the Earth around the sun in whatever position they think. They don't think about the inclination of the axis. So that is the first thing. And the second thing, even if they think about the inclination of the axis, each axis is pointing a different to a different point in the ceiling. So that would mean that the Earth would be pointing at different places in the sky throughout the year. And what we want them to think is what is wrong over here. And we ask them to think about why putting them like this won't help them understand the seasons with this model. So what is wrong? And obviously the correct relative sizes or distances isn't correct. But what we really want to focus about is the tilt. So tilt of data. Oh, this went to the restart. Sorry. I don't know. I'm going to not follow this part. I'll just follow it over here. There was something that wasn't linking to the right place. So their hypotheses are, I'm going to show the answers, that the four Earth's axes are pointing to different locations in the sky and have different tilt angles. That's the correct answer. They could only notice that the four Earth's tilt angles are different. That is also correct, but it's not completely as complete as the other answer. And they could say that they needed more Earths to complete the orbit so they could better understand the Earth's orbital movement. So putting there more Earths won't help them. Only thinking about the tilt angles, it is useful, but it's not complete. Only the first one is completely correct. They have to have the same tilt, but they also have to be pointing to the same place. And when they get that, we want them to think about how could they know that the Earth is always pointing, the Earth axis is always pointing to the same place. And that's easy if you think about the polar star and know that the Earth's axis always points at this time of human life to the polar star. So that's something that they usually know, that the north is, you can find the north by the polar star. And if the tilt if the axis was pointing to different places throughout the year, then you wouldn't know that the polar star was always in the same place. So that's what we want them to think about that. And they have to understand that that the reason that we always have the north with the polar star is because the axis is always pointing to the same place. So over here, it's a reflection of what they saw over here, that it's always, I'm sorry, that it is always pointing in the same direction, okay? And I think that is the end of the, oh, I'm sorry. That this is the end of the scenario. We have a small video, Paxi. I think everybody knows Paxi from ESA resources. I'm sorry, I just have to cough. So we invite them to see the this very short video, and then they can discuss their findings and make a report on the activity or even prepare a hands-on activity. And this is the end of the scenario. Any questions, comments, suggestions? You can either unmute yourself, or you can write down over here in the chat.
And just before the webinar, looking on the platform, I noticed some of you had already tried the scenario. So if you have any feedback from having tried it recently, because it was great to see there's a couple of you who have been trying a number of the different scenarios, including this one before you'd seen this preview of it. So if you have any insight on that, or if you had anything either, any problems that came up or anything that worked particularly well, we're open to any feedback along those lines as well.
Yes, we would really appreciate suggestions. Sometimes when we are creating, we're not looking at the student's point of view. And when teachers implement it, they have the perception of how students enjoy it or not, or how they feel they get engaged or not. Oh, Isabella has tried it. Great. Can you say if you think it was worth it? Did they understand? Were they able to play?
Yes, I tried it with some of my students. They studied at geography about the seasons. I haven't enough time because they were in vacation, and I gave them as homework.
Homework.
Yes, and this week we are in extracurricular activities, so it's not enough time. But when we'll start again the normal courses, I will try again with other class.
Oh, great. That would be wonderful.
Yes.
Are you using the English version, or did you make a copy?
We translate it in Romanian.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I use the English version, but they can translate in Romanian for a better understanding.
Yes. Oh, great. Of course, great. What we have felt is that the teachers need to go around to make sure that they just don't click the first thing that they see. That's something, and maybe explain a little bit more about the simulator, because they might not have the patience to do it, and then they don't really get a nice data sheet that they can analyze.
Yes.
Oh, good news, Isabella. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, we have Eiley. Questions come when you try it, of course. The simulation, yes, it's very, I think it's a very useful simulation. It's different from the usual because it really shows the angle of the rays and the spread of the sunbeam, which is something that not always, it's not very obvious many times. Oh, Rita also tried. Great. So the numbers should go up. Very good news for me. As I don't know if everyone was here during the last webinars. We need numbers so that we can do a new version of the scenario, like for next year, that will take into account the different paths that the students take. As you saw, they have different options, and the idea is always to have the best answer, the more or less answer, and the wrong answer. And we want to have the best way to lead them to understand. If they don't have the best answer, they should have help to get to understand why they didn't get the best answer. I'm sorry.
And that's both for us designing scenarios so based on what seems best for how the students are learning, but also for incorporating AI into the chatbot, guiding students to do it. That'll only be possible once there's enough data of pathways students typically take to train it on, so it knows what to expect, and then can hopefully predict different student needs that way. So that's, we're not yet at that point, but the more you use it, the more that helps us get closer to that goal, which is one of the big goals of the project.
Exactly. It's very important because right now we are giving some individual assistance, but only for 3 levels. If we get this working with the AI, it can be more and more personal, and it's like the ideal situation where the student has its needs attended by the chatbots. But I said box, but. Michael?
Yeah, so I guess that's all the feedback and questions we have, and that's great to hear from both some of you who have already been using it and some of you who plan on using it. So that's excellent. That's both what we're here for, what the project is all about, and specifically about what this webinar series is about. So a couple of reminders to finish off this session. So next week, I'll be hosting next week's webinar, which is on cell identification and using a machine learning algorithm to teach students about organelles of cells and the difference between plant and animal cells. Oh, I realize I still have Luisa's spotlight, so you'd see her while I was talking. Now you can see me. Hello again. So I'm going to add a link to that in the chat. I saw a number of you who are registered for this one are already registered for next week, but there's some who aren't. So in case you missed that, I'm going to add that into the chat as well. Another link I'm about to share. And again, there's a number of you, and it's great to see some of the same faces a number of times. But if you missed any of the previous webinars, here's a link to a playlist of the ones that have been recorded. Unfortunately, there have been 2 webinars that have been canceled. They might be rescheduled in 2 weeks, but we're still looking into whether it's worth doing that, because the deadline we set for the campaign is at the end of next week, which is the next thing I'll bring up. So we're not sure if it's worth rescheduling webinars for afterwards or not, but you'll definitely be informed if that's the case. And then the last thing, which a number of you are probably very interested in as well, is to remind you about the implementation challenge. And the deadline we've set for that is coming up at the end of next week on May 15th. The link to more details on that, it's got both the webinar schedule and the rules for the implementation challenge during the last week of it. So I'll be sending out the entry form on Friday during the last week, and only then, so that we're not getting entries and then you do more implementations, then need to send the form again, and it's hard to keep track which time you sent the form. That's why we're waiting to send it out. But because we're coming near the end, that'll be sent out at the end of this week. So then those of you who have been implementing it, if you're interested in the challenge and coming to our summer school or to the training in Malouse, then that'll be how you can summarize your participation. So then we'll tally it up and announce the winners. And again, it can be up to 10 winners per prize. So that means a lot of you, like potentially everyone in this webinar, if you're all doing if you're eligible, because unfortunately it is only from Erasmus Plus countries.
Yeah.
So I know there's at least 2 of
Jean
you
is from Brazil.
who that might not apply to, unfortunately. So I think those were all the announcements. Oh, to finish off too, I'll share our emails. Most of you probably have them already from previous webinars, but again, not everyone here has been to previous webinars. So I've copied them into the chat. I assume you're okay with me sharing yours again.
Yes,
this time,
please.
right, Louisa?
Yes, please.
And somehow I didn't leave a space between them. So okay, now I have a space. So there's our email addresses. So please do be in touch if there's anything we can do to help out. Or if you want to just share a success story, it's always good to hear if things work and not just when they don't as well. So I think that's everything I had to say. Any final things, Louisa?
No, just thank you for being here, and I wish you all very good luck in seeing you in marathon in the summer. So keep implementing.
So good to see you, everyone, and thank you again, and thank you again to Louisa. So have a good evening, everyone. Goodbye.